Welcome in, Jake West, Director of Team FY and Sports, joined as always by Caleb Tallman. This is the Western North Carolina edition of the Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FY and Sports. Caleb, before we get started, I think we're a week over halfway through the season. What's your biggest surprise so far in Western North Carolina?
The parity. I think there's not one team I can point to and be like, wow, that team's way, way, way better than I thought they would be, or say there's one dominant team. It could be Andrews. Franklin's lost on back-to-back weeks in 2 straight games where I picked them to win. Obviously, that's hurting me in the pick 'em, but I just think in Western North Carolina, especially the Smoky Mountain Conference right now, there's favorites going into every game. But I also think any of the 6 teams in the conference, given the right circumstances, could beat any of the other 6. Not saying that there aren't favorites, but that's been a long time since the Smoky Mountain Conference has been like
that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that some people were definitely surprised with the product that Swain has been able to put out this year. I think we all picked them on our preseason show. We all picked them to finish dead last. I definitely don't think that's going to be the case coming down the stretch, and they've really got something to prove this week against Andrews at home. But before we jump into next week, let's highlight some of last week's games and highlight some of the players from last week's games. Caleb, if you want to tell us about the players of the week from last week.
Sure, we can start off with Hayesville. Dawson Devane had a pretty good week, as good a week as anyone for Hayesville had. He only rushed the ball 10 or 11 times and had 2 receptions. It had 74 yards total, 10 tackles, and a touchdown. But he was averaging about 10 yards a touch, so he was the bright spot on offense for them. Donovan Bateman was the player of the week for Andrews, and we gave it to him, not necessarily because he put up ridiculous numbers, Jake, but just because when he needed to make a play, he made a play. I mean, he threw an absolute dart to Isaac Weaver, maybe the best throw Bateman's ever made in game, to score Andrew's second touchdown. And the few times he kept it, it was either for a 2-point conversion or a big first down gainer, and just had to give a little love to the game manager over there at Andrews. For Franklin, got Daniel Ensley, 10 tackles at linebacker for Franklin in a disappointing week where they once again they came up short scoring late to lose another tight game. And then Brock Adams had a really big week on both sides of the ball, 102 receiving yards on 6 receptions, and then 7 tackles on defense, and another really close game for Robbinsville. And then for Murphy, Hunter Stallcup, maybe a little bit of surprise, sophomore breaking on the scene, had 88 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And once again, he's going to start getting more touches, because if you're averaging 11 yards per attempt, that's a pretty good week.
Yeah, it is. And let's talk about how disappointing that Franklin game was. Just going back to Daniel Ensley, I mean, player of the week for Franklin, 10 tackles. But how up against up against Pisgah, that was a game, I think, just like the week before last, a game that everybody thought Franklin was supposed to go in there and win.
Yeah, I mean, Massey ratings had Pisgah favored, but that was probably more to do with home field advantage. It was a pretty neutral game. But I don't know. Franklin just seems to be coming up just inches short at the end of these games, when at the beginning of the year they were making all those right plays. I really think if you look at Franklin at some point, especially because Braden Watts is out injured right now, I do believe their fullback. At some point, you're just going to have to hand over the keys to Chris McGuire and let him win or lose you games, and see if he can refine some of that accuracy, because he was really accurate at the beginning of the year. And, he's had a lot of quarterback runs, so he could be a little banged up. But if they want to turn around their season, went undefeated in non-conference, and are 1-2 in conference right now, they're going to have to turn things around quickly. because they're going from a team that was going to be a high seed in 3A playoffs to a team that is going to have to work hard to make the 3A playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to that injury, I think I was told he was out for the year. Another ACL injury for the poor kid on the opposite knee. So he's going to miss his senior season, much like, he missed his junior season with an ACL too. So, that's terrible for the team, but also terrible for the kid. But what do you think Franklin has to do besides putting the ball in the air a little more to win in order to get back on track?
I think it's just executing some of the little things. There's several times where they come up, a yard short on third or fourth down. Against Tuscola, they gave up 2 kick returns for touchdowns. They led 9-6 for a large portion of their game against Pisgah, and then some late scoring occurred, and they didn't keep up with the late scoring. I don't know what the answer is for Franklin. I think the talent's there. Obviously, they have a fantastic coaching staff. It's just a matter of, it wouldn't stun me. They could reset and win out, but they could also pick up another couple losses. I think they've got to get back to what Franklin football does, and I'd also think they need to find some new wrinkles in their offense. Try some different stuff. Like I said, give Chris McGuire more options, more choices, because he's the guy that's going to win or lose you games. So give him the opportunity, the right plays to do so. And you really may have to see them open it up more with Braden Watts out. Your rushing options are now limited. I look at their max prep stats from last week. They had Daniel Ensley, 2 carries, 4 yards. Kellen Stiles, 5 carries, 22 yards. Ty Hanley, 16 carries, 54 yards. So, Stiles and Hanley are their 2 backs right now that are averaging, 4 yards a carry, which at the high school level is not great. And then you've got McGuire, who had 15 carries for 84 yards. So obviously you're turning McGuire into a running back basically from the quarterback position. So you got to find some creative ways. One guy that you really got to start to think about for them is you got to find a way to get the ball into Keegan Pollock and Grant Adams' hands and give them some space, because they're pretty dangerous when they get the ball.
Yeah, I agree. Grant Adams definitely an underrated player on that Franklin Panther team. Let's move on to Andrews versus Hayesville. I think I was able to catch up with Coach Phillips after that game. I think we've got that interview.
Yeah.
If you want to roll that interview with Coach Phillips and Donovan Bateman.
All right, Jake West, Director of Team FY and Sports, here with head coach of the Wildcats, James Phillips, and here with our Team FY and Sports player of the game, number 12, Donovan Bateman. Donovan, coming into this game, a lot of people said that you were going to have a good game because Hayesville was going to key in on the run. You did just that. You did exactly what I'm sure Coach preached all week in practice. How does it feel to come out here and do exactly what you wanted to do?
Oh, it feels good. It feels good. Coach set a perfect game plan for the game. Granted, executed it perfect. We had a few mistakes, but we'll make it up. Be prepared for next Friday.
Coach, what's it mean for you to finally have all your kids in jerseys on the sideline?
Well, this is the game 5, and this is the most we've dressed out. I think last week we were back down to 12. So we were actually able to line up a mock-up team this week, which is good. It's just good having the kids back here. Get them out here playing, and I'm excited for them. I keep saying it. People at some point will have to believe it. They just love playing. They love playing together and playing with each other. I think that should be pretty evident now.
Yeah, for sure. Donovan, your target on your back, Coach said it in the huddle, just grew. And every week it's going to grow. So your mindset has to change from week to week, knowing that you're going to get everybody's best shot. So what is that going to mean for you? I know you're not the senior, but you're a leader on this team. Just keeping your guys together and working as a team. Which you guys obviously 31-7 worked very well cohesively as a team. How do you keep that kind of momentum going on in the conference? You got a big game against Swain.
Yeah, we got to keep the same mentality week by week. Just come prepared. No lack of focus. We got to keep our focus and stay ready. Because they're going to partying by everybody. I mean, we're doing good this season. We just gotta keep going, kind of the same mentality the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Heck of a show, for sure. Don, appreciate it. Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, guys.
Great stuff from those two guys there. Caleb, I know a lot of Jacket fans were surprised at the ending score, but a lot of Wildcat fans were not, and especially the Wildcat players. They just knew what they had to do, go in there and take care of business, and that's exactly what they did. A huge win for Andrews, and definitely, I'm sure, made a believer out of you after what they did to your Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think you used the perfect word, business. It was a business trip for them. And, give all the credit in the world to Coach Phillips, because it's like, he climbed that mountain last year with Andrews football and the years before, and he's built a program to where I think, if you might say the Mountaintop's a state championship, but they're in a position now where it's the expectation. It's not, you're not just being hopeful. They did not ride the bus over from Andrews saying, man, I hope we can find a way to win this one. No, they rode the bus over saying, we're going to go in there. This is who we are. This is what we do. And we're going to win this football game. That's a Murphy-Robbinsville mentality. And I mean, heck of a job to the players and to the coaching staff over there in Andrews, because you're overcoming 100 years of subpar football, if we're just being frankly honest, to being having a mentality that expects to win. And, schools like Andrews and Hayesville and the Rosmans and Cherokees of the world, it's really hard to get there. And Andrews is there right now. And I guarantee you ask any one of their players on the top of the roster, the bottom of the roster, they don't think they're going to lose. That doesn't matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they just have a swag about them, and I think we've got some highlights for Andrews from that game if you want to play them, just to kind of see what we're talking about. And this was a big debate on NC Preps this week. They've got two of the top backs in the conference. People argue that it's Cage and Cutler from Robbinsville, and then people argue that it's Weaver and Martin from Andrews. But definitely two of the top backs in the Smoky Mountain Conference and in Western North Carolina as a whole. And you can see that if you want to play those.
Yeah.
The ones that hate me the most look just like me. You tell me what that means. Make a slick comment and see what that brings. I seen it go down, we can reenact things. Extreme like BMXing. These boys and they BMXing. People in the city see the movement occurring and say, my God, I wanna be in that scene. Right, you wanna be in this scene. She had the video trying to be in this scene. Used to fantasize about being this scene. Bluegrass girl, but she got big dreams. Can't touch me, I got instincts. Locked in the house, but I'm plotting things. I brought a gang to the party with me. 5 white boys, but they not in sync. What y'all think? Everything that you say about me. My dogs like to play Madden in 2K, but one thing they don't do is play about me. My homeboy Tyler, he playing South Beach. He told me this summer he gon' fix my jumper. I told Boy Wonder that we might got a thumper. I've been trying to pop, now I'm on like Shumper. Now they on my bumper. Green room chock full of all my comforts. Hotel room like heaven on earth. Got angels. Pro Nemo, Lucci and Keys, Sloop Clay Tufo, and I got a few more I call my brothers. I got a lot of flows and they all like butter. Ooh, you know what that means. I came home nice, but I'm going back mean. I'm about to globe trot when they know a vaccine. Zach lost, but they know exactly what's going on. Made a mill and I don't know what to blow it on. I tell a critic shut up like my show is on. Give a t-shirt to her, said throw it on. She want a mini high school classmates, I'm growing on. My peers ain't popping, they don't know what's going wrong. Y'all well dressed, but you ain't got soul and you just can't sew it on. I'm trying to tell y'all boys, I got a few songs I can sell y'all boys. I tried it back then, it was hell nah, boy. Now I'm in a box like a Kellogg's toy. The ones that hate me the most look just like me. You tell me what that means. Make a slick comment and see what that brings. I seen it go down, we can reenact things. Extreme like BMXing. These boys and they BMXing. People in the city see the movement occurring and say, my God, I wanna be in that scene. That's right. Right, you wanna be in this scene. She had the video trying to be in this scene. Used to fantasize about being this scene. Bluegrass girl, but she got big dreams. Can't touch me, I got instincts. Locked in the house, but I'm plotting things. I brought a gang to the party with me. 5 white boys, but they not in sync. No, they not in sync. No, they not in sync. Word to JT, no, they not in sync. Word to JT, no, they not in sync. No, they not in sync. No, 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 they not in sync.
Hey, family on three, family on three.
1, 2, 3, family.
As you can see, it was pretty much total domination from the Wildcats last week. But just like you were talking about with Bateman when we were talking about players of the week, you could see that he was reading his blocks whenever he did decide to keep it and run out of the backfield. But I think it was the second highlight in that highlight clip. That ball he threw to Weaver, that touchdown pass, just put it up where Weaver went up and high pointed it, and it was an easy touchdown. It's pretty phenomenal stuff from Andrews' offense, but also Andrews' defense, only giving up 7 points. And Hayesville had some opportunities to score, but Andrews just stood tall.
Yeah, and Hazel killed themselves with penalties and turnovers. And part of that's, the turnovers obviously give credit to Isaac Weaver, who had 2 interceptions. He was balling out in the defensive backfield and made a couple of great plays. If you're Hayesville, you gotta turn to the chapter. You got Murphy this week. And here's the thing, we talked about it. Caldwell was going to have to play really good for Hayesville, and he had his worst game of the year. And I've talked to Caldwell this week. He would tell you that, and they're ready to move forward. But I think part of that has to go to Andrews. Andrews is absolutely the team to beat in the conference right now. Because, you can say, if Robbinsville cleans up the turnovers, or if Murphy figures out their defense, or Swain's in conference play now, or if Cherokee cleans up, let's stop making excuses for everybody else. And let's just put it out there that Andrews is playing the best football in the conference right now. Does that mean they're going to go 5-0 in conference? That's to be determined. But as of right now, as of today, Thursday, October 7th, Andrews is playing better football than anyone else in the Smoky Mountain Conference. And you know what? Tomorrow's October 8th. It's Friday. That could change. Another opportunity, another game. So we'll just have to see. But right now, they're the premier team.
Yeah, without a doubt, they're the premier team in the Smoky Mountain Conference. And speaking of giving credit to where credit is due, let's talk about Murphy and Cherokee. I mean, Don Bradley pretty much took that game into his own hands and kept Cherokee in it to the very end. You mentioned last week, Caleb, that if Cherokee was able to hang around, they're a scrappy team. They're going to be able to maybe pull off the upset, and they really nearly did. I mean, we watched the end of it, Caleb, after our Andrews Hayesville game was over. They nearly scored right there at the end and won the ball game.
Yeah.
And
I think you have that highlight in there coming up, Jake. But, one of the things, Murphy won by 1 point, and they had a bad snap on their last touchdown that Peyton McCracken, just super athlete, is also their holder, and was able to turn a no point, missed extra point opportunity. And he was able to cut it around end. And it's what the holder does. You yell fire. And he was able to get in for a 2-point conversion. And that's the 1 point difference.
Yeah, it was. As you could just see that Don Bradley run just a minute ago before that set up their first touchdown. And then credit to Cherokee's defense. They forced a big turnover right here as Murphy was starting to roll in the first quarter and gave the Braves the ball. There's a big sack by Chandler Wood. Both defenses, I know they gave up a lot of points, but they both had some pretty big plays. Here's the sophomore running back Calhoun. No, that's not Calhoun, I don't think. But their sophomore running back Chase Calhoun for the Braves played phenomenal as well. But the biggest takeaway for me with Murphy was their defensive secondary has got to step up, and they've got to be able to limit big plays down the field. And another thing for me was we just saw it before that touchdown. The pass was completed to Cornwell, but it was underthrown. That should have been Kellen should have hit him in stride. That should have been a touchdown without even having to run the extra plays.
Part of me was curious. I felt like he may not have even been throwing that to Cornwell. I thought he may have just underthrown it, and Cornwell was there because he had, who was it, Juan Allen streaking.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was trying to hit the deep go route, but he underthrew it. And Kellen, just like Caldwell, be the first to tell you that he played bad. That's actually the first text I got from Kellen when the game was over was that he played terrible. But there's also some big plays in this game that were taken away by penalties, such as this pick six right here it was brought back because of a block in the back. That could have really changed the game for Murphy. But all in all, if you're a Bulldog fan, you're glad to see Murphy able to get things done under pressure and close things out right at the end of the game, which they were able to do. And you're also really glad to see some help in the backfield coming from sophomore Hunter Stalkup, who obviously had a big game as our player of the week. But there's definitely things you've got to clean up. Not taking anything away from Cherokee. I'm not just saying that Murphy played terribly and Cherokee's not a good football team. Cherokee surprised a whole lot of people with how good they were. Caleb, I think you heard some other coaches around the conference talking about how when they went back and watched this film, how surprised they were with how good Cherokee was.
Well, one thing you got to give credit to is obviously Don Bradley's a stud, but Cherokee's line has came light years from where they're at last year. I think they did have a couple of move-ins, which is common for Cherokee, kids moving in, but all kids also moving out, and that has really helped them. But then Don Bradley, he's like a Madden version of Michael Vick here in the Smoky Mountain Conference. He'll circle one way, he'll circle the other way. And I tell you what, if they had a couple of kids that could consistently catch the ball, Cherokee would be really stinking tough, Jake. Really tough. But, we saw it. If you watch the game, here's the big play by McCracken on the bad snap that he manages to get in for the 2-point conversion. That was the difference in the game. But I was saying with Bradley, if he had a couple consistent receivers, Jake, they don't even have to be world beaters. Just if he had two guys that were going to catch the ball when he hits them on the numbers, Cherokee would be a big, big problem. But he doesn't have that right now, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I agree. As you could just see a couple plays ago, well, there's a fumble that kept Cherokee in it, but there was also two big kickoff returns from Cherokee that allowed Cherokee to move the ball into plus territory. There's the game-ending interception right there Hunter Laney made. But, yeah, just a lot of things to clean up if you're Murphy and if you're Cherokee, a lot of good things to build on. I don't think Robbinsville is very happy that they're having to go to Cherokee and play Cherokee.
Cherokee, just let me say this before we head to break, Jake. Cherokee's going to beat someone they shouldn't this year, whether it comes in the playoffs or whether it comes against a good conference opponent like a Robbinsville or an Andrews.
Yeah, I agree. And all the credit in the world to Cherokee, but Murphy, and I agree, they will beat somebody that technically they shouldn't this year. But Murphy, it's definitely they've got to clean things up if they want to be the Murphy of old. They've got to solidify that defense, and they've really got to figure things out because we're in Smoky Mountain Conference play now, and every game counts. Let's take a quick break, Caleb. Caleb Thomas, this is Jake West, the Western North Carolina edition of the Friday Night Press Box, presented by Team F1 Sports.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the Endless Aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations.
Hey girl, back so soon?
Yeah.
Third time this morning.
Feeling too familiar with the bathroom these days? It's not just you.
Hey girl, look who made it 15 minutes.
At Erlanger Urology, we make it easy to talk about overactive bladder and treatments that work.
Hey girl, you not coming in?
No, I'm good.
Well, okay. I'll be here, because I'm stuck.
Learn more at itsnotjustyou.com. Erlanger Urology.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Welcome back, Jake West, Director of Team Up Flying Sports, joined by Caleb Tallman. Caleb, let's talk about maybe the biggest surprise of the week in Robbinsville and Broome in Robbinsville's homecoming game. Tell us what your takeaways were from that game.
I mean, right now, I think Robbinsville is struggling with the long COVID layoff, obviously, Jake. And then Robbinsville, they're not executing. You don't anticipate seeing Robbinsville fumble it 4 or 5 times. I mean, let's be frank here about it. It happens to you one game, then you say, okay, it's not the end of the world. We'll clean it up. It happens to you 2 or 3 games, like it has in their last 2 or 3 games. Something that you're worried about is now a concern. It's a problem. They are not taking care of the football. I mean, it's simple stuff. It's not like Cutler Adams is fumbling the ball because he's getting hit. It's they're fumbling exchanges. They're fumbling snaps. You can't put it on the ground 5 or 6 times a game and expect to beat above average competition. Because let's be honest, that's all Broome was. They should have beat Broome. Broome's a good team. Lots of really good athletes. But from what I heard, I don't have official stats on it, but Robbinsville put the ball on the turf multiple times again and still only lost to Broome by 3. So, I mean, we've seen what Robbinsville can be at their best, beating a 3A Asheville team, right? We've seen them be able to do those kind of things, but we've also seen Robbinsville lose to Brevard and Broome when they shouldn't have. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. This Broome team was very good. I said last week this was going to be a 3-point ball game. I thought that was going to be in Robbinsville's favor. I thought a Cody Klein field goal was going to be the difference here. But obviously it wasn't, as they lost 46-43. Biggest concern for me, and I know they're not going to see this kind of offensive passing attack and yada, 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 but biggest concern for me is defensively for the Knights. They gave up a lot of yards. They gave up 326 passing yards. Which obviously you're not going to see a team that can pass the ball that well, but that's a lot of yards to give up. But also, they gave up 152 rush yards, and that's what Black Knight fans and Robbinsville as a whole has hung their hat on, has been how good this rush defense is. And they gave up 152 yards against a passing team. So,
I mean, you look at them though too, and it's maybe Broome's the best passing offense they'll see, but you're going to see Hazel, you're going to see Cherokee, Swain and Murphy both throw it pretty well. If you can't effectively, consistently stop the pass, there's going to be some teams in conference that are going to give you a lot of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And I did not expect them to have this much trouble because they have really good defensive backs. I didn't expect them to have this much trouble stopping the pass, but don't want to take anything away from Broome. I mean, obviously, they're a very good football team. If they were able to come in and put 46 on a Robbinsville team, with as good as historically as Robbinsville's defenses have been. But also just looking at the box score on Robbinsville's side of the ball offensively, you give 25 carries to Cutler Adams. He has 270 yards, 10.8 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. That's great. But it's definitely a possibility that come playoff time, I mean, he's played 4 games. He's ran the ball 108 times. That's a lot. That's a lot for a sophomore kid, especially when you have Cage Williams, 190-pound Cage Williams that will run straight through you, who's only getting 9 carries a game. I think, and we talked about it earlier in the year with Andrews, Robbinsville has got to split their carries up. And look at what it did for Andrews when they started giving Austin Martin the ball more. It opened up so much when they started giving their power back the ball more instead of just relying on the big play from Isaac Weaver. I mean, Martin's going to fall forward 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards at a time. That's exactly the kind of kid Cage Williams is. So it just doesn't make any sense to me why they're not putting the ball in his hands more.
No, I don't get it. I mean, let's go back to the first game of the year, Jake. They gave Cage the ball 22 times for 98 yards. And he had 2 touchdowns, and his longest rush was 14 yards. So he was giving you a solid 4 yards a carry, and that's what you need to open up the other bits of the offense.
And I know they've had COVID layoffs, Caleb, but what game did they look the best in? That first game of the year.
It's got to be.
So I mean, it's got to have something to do with it. And Dason Gross, I know he hasn't really been able to hold on to the football. I know he's put the ball on the dirt a few times, but he's pretty consistent. 7 for 8 for 90 yards through the air. And then they pulled a trick play. Isaac Wiggins threw a big touchdown pass, 60 yards to Brock Adams. But it's not all coming down to just you have to find better quarterback play. I mean, Gross definitely has to play better. But I also think, I mean, just mix in a little Cage Williams. I think that's the answer. Mix in Cage Williams, and I think all of Robbinsville's problems are solved. You're a running team. You're a rushing team. You were a run first team when you had the best quarterback in Western North Carolina last year, Nathan Collins. So why not keep being a run first team when you have probably the best running back duo in Western North Carolina right now? I know Andrews is not going to like saying that, and I don't even know if I agree with that, but that's what I've heard argument
to be made.
And we don't know if you have the best running back duo because Cage Williams only getting 9 carries a game.
So yeah, and I think the one thing is you said give Cage Williams all the ball and all your problems go away, except for one, and that's your turnover issues. And unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot of film out of Robbinsville. We don't have access to their game film and stuff, and so we can't identify exactly every little bit of it. But Dason Gross, while he's thrown the ball well, I don't know, up in Robbinsville, do you need to make a quarterback change? Do you need to something has to occur to fix those fumble issues, because you're going to get smacked by Andrews and you're going to get smacked by Murphy if you're giving them the ball 4 times. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, they've definitely got to fix their turnovers, but not at all am I saying that the world is ending in Robbinsville. They're still going to be one of the top teams in the conference. They're still going to compete for a Western Carolina title. I'm just saying that you could be one of the favorites in Western North Carolina, I think, if you changed your offensive scheme a little bit. Obviously, you've got to hold on to the ball, but you have a younger team with your backs and stuff. So that stuff's going to come. I just think you've got to give. I mean, that kid. That just looking at Cage, you can tell I've got to give him the football. So that's my 2 cents about Robbinsville. I'm not saying the world's ending. I still think they probably finish 1 or 2 in the conference, without a doubt. So, I mean, I'll get off my soapbox, all that for nothing. But they will have a pretty tough test, I think, against Cherokee. We'll really find out what their defense is made of against the Cherokee team that also likes to put the ball in the air. But let's talk about the RPI rankings, Caleb. They changed a lot from last week to this week.
Boom. What's interesting, what my biggest takeaway was, Jake, was just intriguing. Hazel gets blown out by Andrews. Cherokee plays Murphy to a 1-point game. And last week, Cherokee was a couple spots ahead of Hayesville, and now they flip-flopped because margin of victory is not anywhere accounted for in RPI. So it's one of the flaws of RPI. Because if you tell me just based on the eyeball test, based on last week's outcomes, Cherokee should be ahead of Hayesville. But because Hayesville played Andrews, who's undefeated, it helped Hayesville's opponent winning percentage margin because both of their winning percentage in the first column doesn't go up. But because of the opponent win percentage column, after playing Andrews, that elevated Hayesville. So that was what was interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. And Andrews jumped up from number 5 to number 3 after their win over Hayesville.
Keep stacking those wins.
So you got 3 undefeated teams sitting there: Eastern Randolph, Mount Airy, Andrews, and then a team Andrews beat in Mitchell at 4. Murphy also climbed a few spots, got to 9 this week. I wouldn't think that Hayesville or Murphy's ranking will go up or down much if Murphy is able to take care of business at home and beats Hayesville.
It's just it's so there's so much that goes into it because it's like, what if your opponents all go winless one week and all your opponents that you played go winless one week? I mean, Andrews could win and drop from 3 to 7. Not saying I want that to happen or that's what should occur. It's just I guess the theory on it though is, Jake, especially with conferences, like your conference opponents are all the same. So by the end of the season, a lot of this will level out. I guess. I don't know.
Well, everybody, I think the main reason for this is making schools schedule tougher non-conference games, get away from the cupcake games, I guess. But let me ask you this: is there no way that we can do a coaches poll in high school sports? I mean, and get away from the computers? I mean, can we not do something where it takes into account the margin of victory and how good this team looked?
I don't know, Jake. It's so tough just because whatever we do, there's not going to be a perfect system. Because what you would see if you did coaches poll is all the Smoky Mountain Conference teams would be voting for each other to help each other out because they're buddy. I mean, it's just, and it's hard because does Eastern Randolph actually know how good or bad Andrews or Murphy are? And then what happens is a lot of it just becomes name clout. Like, one coach may say, well, that Andrews team's had a weak opponent winning percentage, and Murphy has played a couple of really stout teams, and they're Murphy. They've won 9 state championships or whatever it is. Murphy fans don't come out of the woodworks for getting your history wrong, but you know what I mean? So there's not a perfect system. There's just not. It's so hard.
Yeah, I don't think there's a perfect system either. I just think there's got to, everybody complained about Max Preps, but in my mind, Max Preps was a better system than what we've got here because, Caleb, if you can, I know you won't be able to see it on screen, but pull that up and just run through where these Smoky Mountain Conference teams are ranked on the Max Preps thing, if you can pull it up on your computer.
Gotcha.
Just so we can see how different it is. But yeah, like you said, it stinks when Andrews could go undefeated, but also they could have teams on their schedule like North Buncombe, who not very good. They just got to win against Hayesville, who could struggle down the stretch without some of their main guys. So if you have a couple teams on your schedule that it's going to really hurt your opponent's win percentage, then it's going to drop Andrews down when they really should be. I mean, they're definitely a top 3 team. As of right now, they're a top 3 team.
Well, here's what we got. Max Preps has Andrews at 4. It has Murphy at 8, Robbinsville at 9, Swain at 10, Hayesville at 23, and Cherokee at 17. And here's the thing, guys. I know that doesn't sound too different, right? That's all within a couple spots. But listen, the difference between being a 14 seed and a 17 seed is 14 seeds are going to get a home game, and then they're traveling to play a 2 or a 3 seed. Whereas if you're the 17 seed, you have an away game, and then if you win your away game, you're facing the number 1 seed in the West in the second round. So it does matter. I mean, like 2 or 3 spots do matter, and it's like same thing. If you're Andrews and you go undefeated in conference, you have an undefeated year and you're number 2 or 3, but really you should be number 1. If you end up facing that team that was ranked number 1, that means you're playing an away game in the regional final, and that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Just like I think if the season ended right now, Robbinsville, they'd spend a lot of time on the road in the playoffs, and I don't think anybody that knows Western North Carolina high school football thinks that Robbinsville should be ranked at 17, 13, 15, whatever they're at right now in the RPI.
13. Yeah.
13. There's no way. I know they've lost 2 games, but my gosh, Robbinsville's a top 10 team in Western North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost to Brevard, a 2A playoff team, and a 3A playoff team, Broome in South Carolina. I mean, they played the toughest schedule in Western North Carolina to this point.
Yeah, definitely. I don't pop that back up really quick. What does it say about their opponent's win percentage for Robbinsville?
0.423, but their opponent's win percentage is 0.594. But part of that with Robbinsville is, and this is where stuff like match preps would come in. Yeah, you know what? Broome is just 3-3 after last Friday, but they're playing in 3A South Carolina, which South Carolina football could make an argument for being better than North Carolina football. And then they played another 3 or 4A team out of Tennessee. So it doesn't account for. It's not accounting for opponent strength.
Yeah, there's got to be some way. I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be some way where the eyeball test can factor in. Like just the some of the lower teams in the RPI right now. Take Cherokee. They played your number 9 team down to 1 point, and now Cherokee's ranked 21. I mean,
they dropped.
Yeah,
they dropped. I mean, but and then the last thing I'll say about it, because I know we got to get to next week's games after the break. The last thing I'll just say is that it's not fair for some of the teams that are playing bigger opponents. In theory, what you should do is you should schedule the best homeschool teams you can find, like Georgia Force and some of the others that are pretty decent, because they go 8-2 with 2 losses in their non-homeschool division. But that's going to help your opponent win percentage margin, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely got to be some changes. But let's talk about this week 8 games coming up. Let's take a quick break though, and we'll be back. We'll talk about week 8 games.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the Endless Aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations.
Hey girl, back so soon?
Yeah.
3rd time this morning.
Feeling too familiar with the bathroom these days? It's not just you.
Hey girl, look who made it 15 minutes.
At Erlanger Urology, we make it easy to talk about overactive bladder and treatments that work.
Hey girl, you not coming in?
No, I'm good.
Well, okay. I'll be here, because I'm stuck.
Learn more at itsnotjustyou.com. Erlanger Urology.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Welcome back, Jake West, Director of Team F1 Sports, joined by Caleb Tallman. Caleb, Murphy and Hayesville play this week in Murphy. Murphy's homecoming game. I think you got a chance to catch up with one of Hayesville's players and talk about what this game means to them. Let's hear that interview.
Caleb Tallman, Team F1 Sports. I'm here with starting center for Hayesville, Lane Odell. Lane, just tell us how you guys are feeling about this week. Last week, tough game, obviously, but you're preparing for a big rivalry game this week with Murphy.
Well, I feel like the confidence this week is just way better. You know, we've put in some good work this week. We started to come together as a team, and we're tired of getting beat. You know, people are tired of it, and I feel like once we get that through our systems and want to win, I feel like we can win. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game. We're going to have to battle in the trenches.
It's obviously been a really rainy week. Probably going to be a messy field over at Murphy. It's probably something you're going to be excited for. I'm sure y'all are going to have to try and run the ball a little bit more with it being a muddy game, but I feel like a lineman like yourself always loves that type of environment.
Oh, yeah, it's very fun to play like that. You know, it gets tough. You fall in every play, you know, but you just got to keep battling. No, line's got to come together this week. We done a decent job last week, but we really need to bring back like we did against Georgia Forest. We really got to come together and just block together, you know. Quit letting one person try to block everyone or someone else trying to block everyone. If we block as a line, I feel like we could be a very good line.
All right, and then if you just said, what's one key to y'all's, whether it's your line or just your team as a whole, if y'all are going to come away with a win at Murphy, what do y'all got to do as a team this week?
I would say intensity. You know, we got to raise the intensity level. We got to hit them in the mouth from the beginning, you know. We've done that a few times, but not much, and we just got to do a little bit better at that. If we could keep the intensity up for 4 quarters, we could be a very good ball team.
Thank you, Lane.
Thank you.
Well, you heard it from Odell right there, Jake, and he's just saying exactly. You got to keep the intensity up if you're Hayesville. I mean, they've struggled to play full 4-quarter games. You know, I mean, it's something that they have to start doing a better job if they want to be able to play winning football, if they want to take the next step with their program.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a young Hayesville team. They've got a lot to look forward to. You see the line, Hayesville at Murphy. Murphy favored by 27.5. What do you're not on the call this week, so you can tell us, do you think that line is covered, or do you think Hayesville hangs in tough? Because this is going to be, you mentioned it, it's going to be a game that's played on the ground and won in the trenches with as nasty as it's going to be out there Friday night.
I just don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so I think for one reason that's why Hayesville will cover. And, you know, I think a big decider in this game is I think Murphy on paper is a more talented team, but you're a Murphy guy, I'm a Hayesville guy, Jake, so I think we can say this fairly. Both teams have had poorly timed turnovers all year long, and both teams have struggled with bad timing on penalties. And so if one of the teams is able to clean it up and have a no turnover, no penalty night, and the other team is, you know, just to play upset alert, you know, because let's be honest, if it's all things even, Murphy probably wins. But if Murphy has 2 or 3 badly timed turnovers and a couple of big runs brought back by holding calls or blocks in the back, that's how Hayesville pulls the upset. And I think that's possible because both teams at times have shown they can execute and play without turnovers at penalties, but other times both teams have struggled with it. So whichever team cleans it up better going into a game that by all things considered is going to be a slot fest and mud wise. I mean, that, you know, the field can't be in great shape. You're down in Murphy, Jake, so maybe you've gotten a look at it. But even if it doesn't rain any time between Thursday morning when we're recording this and Friday, the field's still going to be nasty.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a game that's going to be played on the ground, which is definitely not going to be good for Hayesville. And because of that, and because I think this is a bounce back game for Murphy, as bad as they played last week against Cherokee. I think Murphy gets it done, and they get it done pretty handily. But they've got to. This is a game where they can kind of figure things out. I mean, this is the last game where they can figure things out. Hayesville, a year away from really being competitive. So I'm not trying to talk on them or anything. I'm just saying this is the last game before you hit that stretch of Swain, Robbinsville, and Andrews. And those are not games where you're just going to be able to go out there and figure things out. So I think Murphy's definitely got to change their game plan and figure out what's going to work for them. Obviously, this is going to be a big game for them to help figure out what's going to work on the ground. But moving on, we've just got about 10 minutes left here. Let's talk about Cherokee and Robbinsville, and then let's talk about Andrews and Swain. Cherokee, both of those are going to be very good games in my opinion. Robbinsville 17.5-point favorite at Cherokee, much like Murphy was last week. We saw how that turned out. What's your prediction for that one?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think Cherokee's going to play Robbinsville a whole lot closer than that line. And I honestly think, especially because the game's at Cherokee, which team takes care of the football, Jake? Cherokee had a couple of bad turnovers against Murphy last week, and that's what helped Murphy win. And same thing, Robbinsville's putting the ball on the ground a lot. If one of the teams comes out +2 turnover differential, that'd be my money who wins the game. Now, if all things even, where it's like, they both have 2 or 3 turnovers, my money's on Robbinsville. Robbinsville's my pick for the game, but find a way to contain Don Bradley because, I think more than any single player in the conference, if you look at all 6 conference teams and say, okay, if I shut down that one kid for whatever the 6 teams are and they have no chance to win, Don Bradley's the guy. I'm not saying he's the number 1 player in the conference. I'm not saying he'll be our player of the year. It could be. You never know. But if there's one team in the conference that's player-driven, as in a singular player, it's Don Bradley at Cherokee.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna pick Robbinsville, but I'm gonna go against what you were saying. I think this game is going to be played in the rain. They do have turf over there, so it's not going to be as nasty as it will be at Murphy in Cherokee. But I think Robbinsville is angry after that loss last week. I think they're angry hearing what you and I and everybody else has to say about them. I think they're going to come out and really put on a show. And I think in the rain, Don Bradley not going to be able to do too much through the air. Maybe he's slipping around back there in the backfield, trying to make something happen with his feet. But I think this is the week that they give Cage Williams the football, and Cutler's always going to do what he does. This is the week Robbinsville gets it all together, and they play a complete 4 quarters just like they did against Asheville. I think this is Robbinsville by 2 scores. Maybe I'm wrong. I know Cherokee fans hope that I'm wrong, but I think this is Robbinsville by 2 scores. But the only thing that kind of hurts me when I say that is the fact it is in the rain and Robbinsville has not been able to take care of the football.
No, and I agree with that pick, Jay. Robbinsville, don't get me wrong, Robbinsville is my pick. But like I said, and you just mentioned, if one team wins the turnover margin by more than 2, that's who I would put my money on.
Yeah, I just think Robbinsville's tired of people telling them that they can't take care of the football and they can't do this and they can't do that. I think they're going to come out and dominate, kind of like Andrews came out and dominated against Hayesville last week. But that's just my opinion. Let's move on to our game of the week for Western North Carolina. Andrews at Swain. Swain's homecoming. Andrews probably the better team going into this, but they're going to Bryson City, and it's Swain's homecoming. Swain's got a lot of momentum. But they also haven't played in a long time, so a lot of what ifs and unknowns heading into this. What's your thoughts?
Whew. I mean, I think we've been waiting to see if Swain's for real, and we find out this week. And I'm gonna be honest, Jake. I think Andrews is gonna cover that 2.5 point spread. by quite a few. I see Andrews winning by 2 scores. I just don't think Swain has the personnel. I don't think Swain has the personnel to stop Martin up the middle. Weaver's getting healthier. That's obviously why he didn't run the ball quite as much at Hayesville. But then again, you also now have to prepare for Weaver playing in the slot, taking sweeps, being their go route guy. And then when you look at, I just don't see how Swain's going to score the ball, to be honest, Jake. I don't see where Andrews probably has the best secondary in the conference. We saw that last week as they shut down Logan Caldwell, who was second in the state in passing. Completely shut him down. Lillard's not the passer that Caldwell is. And then they have the best tackling linebacker trio in Dalton Rose and the 2 Martin boys. So I just don't see where Swain's going to be able to score on Andrews to be able to stay in the game.
Yeah, I can see that. And honestly, maybe my pick, like Andrews is going to be my pick for this game. But honestly, if it hadn't rained all week, I don't know if that would be my pick. But with the rain and as nasty as it is going to be, Andrews' dominant team on the ground. I just hope the moment isn't too big for them, because this Andrews team, as good as they are and undefeated, they're very young. They're going to be even better next year. So I just hope the moment doesn't get too big for these guys. And I don't think Coach Phillips is going to allow that to happen. But, man, that's a terrible, terrible place to go play in Bryson City if you're a visiting team. That's a great thing to have on your side if you're Swain, to make everybody hate going over there and playing. But, man, it's just you got to go through the gorge. It's always packed over there. Fans are always rowdy. It's not a place that you want to go. It's not a place you want to go play your football game. And as great as that is for Swain, I just don't know if home field advantage and homecoming is going to be enough unless they can get in the head of these Andrews kids. But from what I saw last week with Andrews, I keep using the word business. They're business-like. They're just going out there, putting their product on the field, and it's been enough so far. And I think it's going to be enough in this game against Swain. But I think this is going to be a very close game, and like I said, it could swing in Swain's favor if the moment gets too big for Andrews. Andrews has to stay cool, calm, and collective, just like they were all last week against Hayesville. And I tell you what, this Andrews team, every week it's going to get tougher for them. That's what Coach Phillips and Bateman talked about in their post-game interview. Each week you're going to want to beat the best team in the conference in Smoky Mountain football, and that's been Murphy and Robbinsville in the past, and they've gotten everybody's best shot. And Murphy and Robbinsville, I'm not saying they're not going to continue to get everybody's best shot, but Andrews is up there. Everybody in the conference wants to beat Andrews.
Well, here's the thing. When they beat Mitchell, they went from being hunters to being the hunted.
Yeah, for sure. But all that being said, I do think they win this ball game by a score. I think it's a 21-28 football game. Maybe 28-14 if Swain's offense isn't able to get anything going. But I think it's very close up until the second half. Briefly talk about this Franklin game. This should be a get back on track game for Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin at North Henderson. Franklin's 20.5-point favorites. They're going to cover that spread, Jake. They're going to take out their frustrations of the last couple weeks on a lesser opponent. Franklin's my pick. I'd be willing to bet Franklin's your pick. They're going to exercise their demons, and North Henderson is unfortunate having to be their opponent this week.
Yeah, I agree. Franklin by 28 probably. I know they have to travel to North Henderson, but should be good. Get back on track game for them. I know Coach Brooks is glad to see this Henderson team on their schedule at this point in the year.
Yeah. But hey, folks, as we wrap up our show, remember, hey, check out our YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the Team F Line Sports YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great stuff on there. Some of the stuff we played on our show today, highlight videos, interviews. We can't fit every single one of them onto our show. So if you want to see more coverage, make sure to check out the Team F Line Sports YouTube.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks for coming on. This has been the Western North Carolina edition of the Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FYN Sports.